Should you looking it up?
I thought you were looking it up.
I am. Evil Michael Knight. Shit, what was it? Oh, it's wasn't it Garth?
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Chat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit chatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Chat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at chatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, chatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, dear listeners, one of our great listeners, Steve F., he's asked us to grab our dive gear, steady our nerves, and to prepare ourselves for an adventure where the ocean is mysterious as what lurks inside of it. We're going to go deep sea exploring with some Navy SEALs in this special effects-driven, groundbreaking film about first contact. So we're excited this week. I'm excited to dive headfirst into James Cameron's iconic underwater epic, The Abyss.
And to explain why he chose The Abyss, Steve F. wrote in and said, "Hi, Shat Crew. First, I want to say how much this podcast means to me. I discovered it at the beginning of 2024 after watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I was looking for a pod that could put a critical spin on whether the movie still held up. I have since listened to many, many episodes, and I continue to be drawn to Chat the Movie's chemistry. This podcast has accompanied me on many long commutes, as well as training runs for various races this past year. It's something I always look forward to in what has been an incredibly stressful year." You're telling me, Steve. I scrolled through the website and podcast feed several times only to realize that one of my favorite movies, the 1989 film The Abyss, was missing. This film came out when I was 11 years old, and while I did not see it in theaters, my brother and I watched the VHS copy repeatedly. I've been obsessed with underwater adventures since I was little and heard of the 1985 discovery of the Titanic wreck, having read the compelling National Geographic issue devoted to it. The technology featured in this film, the submarines, the advanced diving suits, and the rig itself, combined with natural disasters, man-made disasters, rescues, and mysterious, omnipotent sea creatures, makes this a thrilling film I still love watching to this day. Top it off with an estranged couple trying to repair their relationship, amazing practical and special effects, a captivating score, and Michael Bihn's Amber Alert creepy mustache. Hey, now, you've got a damn near perfect movie. Despite this, it's a bit long, much like this commission email, but hey, now it's available in 4K, so it's a feast for the eyes. Thanks again for all that Chat the Movies does for us middle-aged movie lovers. Cheers, and keep up the good work, Steve F. Steve, first of all, that's a great mustache. There's nothing wrong with Michael Biehn.
Oh, I wish that he could see you, Gene. You look like Lieutenant Coffee.
I wish.
When we turned on the cameras, I said, Gene, you look like you're ready to go on a rig. You look like you're ready to do some work.
Okay, what you guys can't see is that Big D also has a nautical beard for the first time ever. We used to know him as the human dolphin because of his hairlessness. Now, he's going to be catching sea anemones in that thing.
This is the first time I've ever done it. I went to a wedding, and every adult male friend I had in my 40s and 50s all had beards.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Screw it. Why do I always cut it? So on the ride home with my good friend Brian, I decided, he has a majestic, thick beard. I said, I'm going to try it. So it's a little embarrassing. It's a little patchy, Gene, but at least there's something.
You look sort of sinister. I'm going to be honest.
I like that.
It's like you're evil, D.
Do you remember in Knight Rider when there was Michael Knight And then there was the evil Michael Knight.
Yeah, of course I do. I was addicted to that shit.
So you're saying this is the evil, this is Lore, or what was his name?
Yeah.
I'm Garth Knight. That's
Garth.
I'm Garth Knight. Yes, that's exactly. I got to grow the soul patch, though. I gotta do that.
Well, Steve also mentioned that Titanic edition of National Geographic. I think everybody read that one magazine. I remember I would obsess over every single picture. We didn't have the internet. There were glossy, beautiful photos, so haunting. And I think that was my first interest in the deep sea. Unfortunately, I really hate being on the water and I get seasick. So no thanks. Well, The Abyss is a 1989 science fiction film written and directed by James Cameron and starring Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, and Michael Biehn. When an American submarine sinks in the Caribbean, a U.S. search and recovery team works with an oil platform crew racing against Soviet vessels to recover the boat. Deep in the ocean, they encounter something unexpected. The film received generally positive reviews and grossed $90 million. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards and won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. Big D, in honor of your manly beard, you do the honors and let us know, what are your memories of this movie?
So Steve F. mentioned that, after the Titanic cover came out, and I think they found the Titanic wreck in 85, they got the good pictures. A few years later, we had this renaissance of underwater themed films, and I didn't even remember. They all came out almost back to back to back. We've reviewed one, Deep Rising. Then there was also Deep Star 6. There was Leviathan. And then tonight's film. It was exciting. Underwater became a scary, dangerous place. And I wanted to experience this in an old school way, in a classic way, Gene. Today with digital copies, it seems like you can only get specific versions of the films. We ran into this recently where we could only find the 3-hour version of one of the movies. I don't even remember what it was. I feel like it was the international film about painting the houses on the beach. What the hell was
Betty
that?
Blue?
Yes, it was Betty Blue, the 3-hour version. So I went to my local library, shout out to the Orange County Public Library, and they had the DVD, the collector's edition, Gene, 2-disc, had the theatrical version. It was 30 minutes shorter than the special edition, and it had that antiquated DVD startup menu, but it also had all of these features. You could navigate through the entire submersible. You could go into the rooms. You could find clues. They had special effects. They had a behind the scenes. It looked really bad. It looked like the game Myst, where you have to go around and poke and prod. But it completed my experience of rewatching this classic, because I remember seeing it in the theater and everybody being blown away by the technology and what we had seen, and watching this on my Xbox on a physical format, old school THX sound. It was a great way to go back and watch this again.
Big D, you mentioned mixing up movies and you mentioned Leviathan. The Abyss came out the same year as Leviathan. They were released within a few months of each other. And I was 9 years old. And I unfortunately watched Leviathan because of Peter Weller. Peter Weller is amazing. I'll watch anything he's in. And it scared the shit out of me, to the point where I thought The Abyss was going to be a movie like Leviathan. I was 9 years old. I mean, I'm the kid that walked out of Return of the Jedi because he was too afraid of what was happening there. So thanks, Steve, for exposing me to much friendlier deep sea entities. One, I got to see The Abyss as an adult, which made it less scary. And two, thankfully, the thing that lurked below water, other than man, was quite nice.
But what was your fear? Where does your fear of water come from?
Of Leviathan?
No, I thought you had a fear of deep water.
Oh no, I don't have a fear of deep water. I get seasick, and I don't really. Yeah.
Okay.
But also I'm an Arizonan. I don't know. I don't know what lurks out there.
Yeah, that's okay.
In the 17th century, I might have been a pirate.
Yeah, it must have been fun. I went also and looked at some of the taglines of this film, and they kind of show you the vibe they were going for. When you get there, you will understand. That was the Australian release tagline.
That's my favorite pickup
Then
line.
the other one was a place on Earth, more awesome than any place in space. That's kind of a bad one. There's everything you'll ever know about adventure, and then there's the abyss. Who the fuck wrote that, Gene? Last one. Deep below the blue surface, there lies a place no one has ever dreamed of.
Well, if you think that's bad, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this trailer.
The Abyss is an experience like no other, writes Peter Travers of Rolling Stone magazine. It's the greatest underwater adventure ever filmed. The most consistently enthralling of the summer blockbusters. One of the best pictures of the year. It's also something even more unexpected. A love story of shattering impact. The Abyss opens August 9th at theaters everywhere.
In January 1994, the American submarine USS Montana has an encounter with an unidentified object and sinks near the Cayman Trough. With Soviet ships moving in to try and salvage the sub and a hurricane moving over the area, the U.S. government sends a SEAL team to Deep Core, a privately owned underwater drilling platform, to use it as a base of operations. The platform's designer, Dr. Lindsay Brigman, insists on going along with the SEAL team, even though her estranged husband, Virgil Bud Brigman, is the current foreman.
Gene, we got a lot of drama going on. Mm-hmm. We've got romance on board. We've got natural disasters. We've got tension with the crew, the military, aliens, the Russians. There's a lot of shit going on. But if you ask most people about the Abyss, they're going to remember probably one thing. They're going to remember the CGI, the water tentacle. They're going to remember being blown away by it, not necessarily the story. But I think that shortchanges the film. And I know you don't like when I talk about the behind the scenes, so I'm not going to go into it. But what blows me away is that most of this stuff, this underwater set, it's real. It's the largest underwater set ever built. They flooded an abandoned nuclear power plant with 7 million gallons of water. There was no miniatures, no sound stage tricks, just actors submerged. And they were feeling claustrophobic. And the fact that Cameron did not get arrested, that's the shit that blows my mind. Ed Harris almost drowned 3 times. Cameron, he ran out of oxygen and his weight boots took him to the bottom of the tank and nobody knew he was missing. Today, if this shit happened, we talk about like the intimacy coordinators and all the way we're gonna try to do our best to keep everybody safe. Cameron was a fucking wild man who said, screw the CGI. I want all of these actors in the tank. They're not trained divers. But in the end, I think it's worth it because you get something that feels real and frightening.
I totally agree with you there, Big D. The movie looks fantastic. And you can tell the realism and the work that went into making this thing look authentic. However, The Abyss comes from a long line of James Cameron films with terrible scripts. This is a fun story. It's a great premise. Like all that is working for the movie. But what people are saying, that's where the movie really blows it. I cannot recall a more egregious attempt to write what I'm calling like blue collar banter, like Armageddon, right? That these are just some guys and they're hardcore, dyed in the wool Americans. Everything's got to have a nickname on the ship. You can't just call it by its real name. And it just felt like if you'd asked a millionaire, a Hollywood millionaire, what goes on in a dive bar. And they're like, oh, yeah. Like people aren't going to tell you, wait a minute. They're going to say, keep your pantyhose on.
That is so true. And I can totally, this makes Armageddon and Harry Stamper and the rest of these roughnecks look real.
Yes.
At least they developed all the different characters. You had Steve Buscemi, you had all of these guys who seemed like unique, like versions of what we think these tough guys would be. Here, we get none of that. It is all superficial trucker hat. It is like Green Bay Packer jersey guy, weird guy with the rat. They don't even go anything below superficial to show this is what a ragtag weird group of underwater diggers would be.
And before anybody writes in and says, oh, like James Cameron like has movies with good scripts, I'm talking about the ones he wrote, okay? Because like The Terminator has a good script. It's a well-written movie. He didn't write that. He just directed it. And sometimes I think filmmakers need to kind of step back and know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are.
Yeah.
But getting back to the effects and how they make you feel, this movie is outstanding at creating those feelings, like you said, Big D, of discomfort, of panic, of terror. And the most disturbing scene by far in The Abyss is when the Navy SEALs, they want to show off this oxygenated breathing fluid, and they want to demonstrate that it's safe and that you can use it. And they take a dude's rat, like a pet rat, Beanie the Rat, and they submerge Beanie the Rat in this cage of oxygenated breathing fluid. And my first thought, because I was feeling for this rat, was if anyone did that to one of my dogs, like they would be dead. I don't care if it works or not. The dog is not having a great time. But my second thought was that rat, the rat in the movie, the actual rat, it looks terrified and it looks like it's suffering. And then I learned that shit was real.
No.
Yeah, the filmmakers actually dunked a rat in oxygenated breathing fluid. And then they put it in front of people and they made $90 million.
Oh, I mean, Cameron was going to kill actors. You know, he was going to kill Ed Harris. So you figure a rat. Are you serious? This liquid does not exist.
It does exist, but here's the issues with it. Okay, there's two big issues with it. One is it can get oxygen into your blood, right? You can breathe it in, but it can't get carbon dioxide out. The other problem, obviously, is that your lungs get filled with fluid. So even though you can cough that fluid out, you have fluid in your lungs. This is where pneumonia comes from, right? So it is a big health issue once it's happened. I don't think Beanie lasted much longer after they filmed this scene.
No, I'd be fucking furious. And forget the fact of that, yes, they will survive. Like Marshmallow, my rabbit.
Yeah.
He is very fragile. He is a prey animal who really is not too robust. The slightest, like a good jolt could kill him. When we were hunting rabbits in sapper school, with small game kill class, the way we would kill them is you just grab them by the back of their legs and they will try really hard to look up at you and they end up breaking their own necks. Or you just do like a little karate chop in the back of their neck and then they just bleed out. It doesn't take much to kill him. If you stuck Marshmallow in a clear vat of this liquid, he would probably die of fright.
Big D, I'm sorry to keep bringing this up, but like you talking about killing the rabbits with that beard, I just feel like I'm not talking to you. Like you are not Big D. It's like Vanessa asked if Big D got abducted. I don't think this is the real Big D. But you're absolutely right. This rat, for people who haven't seen the movie, his eyes are wide. He's like gasping for breath, probably screaming and just having his lungs filled with fluid. He doesn't know what's going on. That's so scary.
Gee, normally we do research. I was so confident that was an animatronic rat because of how terrified and how mean it would be to do that. I didn't even search. I never even thought that could be a possibility. What would you do if you came out and somebody was submersing, like had June's head in a 5-gallon bucket and being like, hey, come take a look at this?
I mean, they're going to have their head in a 5-gallon bucket.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no compromise there.
No.
Well, during the initial investigation, the team's submersibles lose power, leading to Lindsay seeing a strange light circling the sub. Lieutenant Coffey, the SEAL team leader, commandeers a mini-sub to recover a Trident missile warhead from the Montana, just as the storm hits above, leaving the crew unable to disconnect from their surface support line in time. The cable crane is torn from the ship and falls into the trench, dragging deep core to the edge before it stops. The rig is partially flooded, killing several crew members and damaging its power systems.
So my hearing is shot to shit. I was a combat engineer, so I did demolition. We rarely use hearing protection. So my hearing is shit at this point. And I normally do not pay attention to any kind of sound design. It's not something I can really do. I watch everything with subtitles. But luckily, because we had house guests, I was forced to use my headphones to watch this. And as we talked about the visuals of this movie, I think people forget about how great the sound design is. It was nominated for the Academy Award, but didn't win it. But the sound, when we're first going down, we hear like the thrusters, they're whooshing and there's like a hum. You can hear like metallic rumbles in the distance. It's kind of like that Hunt for Red October when you hear the metal crunching and squeezing. You could almost feel like you were in the sub moving. There's the sonar pings. And without even realizing it, I'm sitting in the dark. I'm watching this THX CD, DVD, like shit version of this movie. And I start getting pulled into it. I can feel the atmosphere. I feel like I'm going down into the deep. It's setting the mood. I'm isolated. I'm thinking how screwed these people are. And later on, like, everybody in the crew has a nickname. Gene, that's how we know that these are really like roughnecks. You got like Hippie and Sunny and One Night and Catfish and Willet. You get all these fucking names. Jammer has a panic attack, and you hear the respirator like breathing in and out. Those sounds make you feel more trapped and terrified than almost any visual in this movie does.
I definitely noticed the outstanding sound in the opening scene where we see the USS Montana and it's detecting these strange happenings in the water and meeting its fate. You could hear all the systems in the ship working together. Like you mentioned, the sonar ping, much like Close Encounters, which did a lot of this. Cameron's using sights and sounds together to really capture the atmosphere. He's creating an atmosphere that's really captivating for the audience. I found myself glued to this film throughout. Well, at least for the first 2/3. And before the crew of the Deep Corps agrees to help the Navy investigate the sub disaster, we get Virgil, Ed Harris, okay? This tough leader. He just wants to get his crew through the workday safely, and he seems really reluctant to accept this mission. It's not like they're all gung-ho about helping the Navy SEALs. Virgil flat out says, I'm the tool pusher on this rig, because that's how blue-collar people talk. And when it comes to the safety of these people, there's me, and then there's God. If things get dicey, I'm pulling the plug. And so I go, okay, cool. So we've got the guy with the level head. He's setting the boundaries for this tale. We know what the rules are. And then immediately after that, we get an insane series of catastrophes, any of which should be a reason to pull the plug, any of which I would classify as things getting dicey. There's a fucking hurricane to start with. There's power outages in the ship that you cannot explain. You got one of your crew members, your wife, by the way, saying that she's seeing lights out in the ocean. The cranes are flying off of ships. You got Navy SEALs with like the tremors losing their shit. Aliens show up. And I just wondered, like, at what point does Virgil think, okay, maybe things are getting dicey. Might be time to pull the plug.
Yeah, plus they also have them going inside of a submarine with dead bodies and weapons around, Gene.
Jammer freaking out.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit. You have people having, and even if you don't believe that there's aliens, right? You would believe that there's something psychotic going on with the crew. They're hallucinating. Maybe the oxygen mixture in the habitat is not correct. But the one place, Gene, he draws the line. It's not pulling a gun on your crew. It's not people dying. It's not the Navy SEALs stealing the necessary equipment to unhook from your surface support. It's setting a nuke up to go off automatically. That is the line in the sand. And that's kind of a really, really, it's way down the line of options. He probably would have taken the Navy SEALs executing 3 or 4 of the crew. Before, he doesn't even upset. He doesn't even come to defend the poor rat. It's all talk.
I totally forgot. Yeah, people died. He was still like, yes. All right, well, it's,
I think whatever. 7 people, I think he says at one point. We lost 7 people. Let's keep going. Keep marching forward, Gene. Yeah. Also, they're running out of oxygen. And nobody pulls the cord.
Catfish, ding dong, snow shovel, and bellhop all day.
Jammer, Willie P, Coffee, Bregman.
As the crew struggle against the cold, the non-terrestrial intelligences form an animated column of water to explore the rig, which Deep Crew's crew equate to an alien version of a remotely operated vehicle. Coffee cuts the water column in half by closing a pressure bulkhead on it, causing it to retreat. Realizing that Coffee is suffering from high-pressure nervous syndrome, the crew spies on him while he is arming the warhead to attack the NTIs. Bud fights Coffee, but Coffee escapes in a mini-sub with a primed warhead. He is able to launch the warhead into the trench, but in a fight with Bud and Lindsay, Coffee's sub implodes from the pressure, killing him. Trapped in a leaking mini-sub with only one diving suit, Lindsay opts to drown with hopes of being able to be resuscitated. When Bud swims back to the platform with Lindsay's body, the crew revive her.
You almost have an entire movie in that one bucket.
Yeah.
Everything is going wrong. You've got the Navy SEALs having high pressure nervous syndrome. You've got the NTIs. You've got like people pulling out weapons. It's a complete shit show. But this is when the NTIs decide to make first contact. And this is what was the groundbreaking moment that led to modern CGI and the T-1000 and Terminator 2. It is the water tentacle. And it's the coolest effect in the movie. It's iconic. When it does Lindsay's face and then it does Bud's face, and people were like, wow, this is absolutely crazy. It's going through the ship. It's shifting and adapting and moving. And we see the POV of this water tentacle. And whatever, it looks okay for the day. Yes, it was groundbreaking. It took computer power that was revolutionary. But as it's going through, it has to interact with doors and portals and moving things. And I'm just like, that's not how water works. And I don't want to be that guy who's complaining, right? We're like 2 miles deep at some point, Gene. Okay, so we've all seen what happens with Ocean Gate and the Titan submersible. What happens when you have vessels and you go deep in the water? It's worse than going into space. But I don't know. It looks cool, but it's starts turning that big wheel to open up the gate. And I'm like, how does that work? You don't have like a little water hand. Water can't grab and turn it. How did it become solid and move that? You can't interact and move a solid object unless there was some other force at play. And I know I'm overthinking it. But then I started thinking about Moana. Moana does living water in a very cool, logical way. It can pick things up, large objects, but it can't do fine movements. Am I overthinking this? Is this just a stupid way to interact with the aliens, or was there a better way to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you basically just described the Green Lantern's powers, right? He can make a green one of anything he can imagine, but he can't make complex machinery. You know, if bulkhead doors were susceptible to water opening them, that would be a big problem on ships. But the movie does establish that these aliens are masters of water. And they managed to figure out how to make a pressurized and oxygenated chamber 2 miles under the surface for Ed Harris to hang out in, complete with display screens, by the way, that can show your text messages. I'm guessing they figured out how to open a door. The thing I had a problem with was how they treated these submersibles, okay? Because pretty early in the film, the Abyss establishes there's a pecking order among submersible pilots, okay? One night, she's like what would be like an elite jock. If this is Robot Jocks, she would be a winner, right? But she's not the best. The best is the one who created Deep Core, right? It's Lindsay. She's the best in the world at driving these submersibles. And we can assume that the Navy SEALs, because they have hats that say SEAL on them, they've at least encountered the controls of a ship. But what we get in this movie is a submersible race/fight between Coffee and Lindsay.
Oh my.
And I'm wondering how the hell Coffee is able to engage in this full-on submarine demolition derby with the greatest submersible pilot in the ocean, Lindsay. And not only that, he gets his ass handed to him, but still manages to chase her down submersible to submersible and end up with him going over an underwater cliff and dying, and her ending up in the leaking ship. And there was enough tension in this movie, as we've already described, with all the other deaths, all the other catastrophes going on. It became overkill, right? It's the classic Jurassic Park question, just because you can doesn't mean you should. This overkill hurt the story.
But like, why?
Yeah.
The ocean at this depth, it's dark. That's terrifying on its own. You have instant death is a second away, a microsecond from like implosion. One mistake. This is like Armageddon. You've got now an asteroid coming straight to the Earth. You can see the Earth. Hey, we need a Gatling gun on the armadillo. It's going to jump, and then we're going to have one of the crew have space dementia. That's what this is. It's too much. It takes away from the grounded terror of what's going on. You don't need underwater fistfights, Gene. We don't need a Navy SEAL fighting a roughneck and getting hit with a pipe. We don't need these submersible battles. We don't need people, Gene, taking off all of their gear and swimming in a t-shirt and pants from one submersible to the other. It's ridiculous. And Jammer panicking when he's like running out of air, that's tension, that's stress, that's what works. This was like Armageddon, Die Hard, some ridiculous. This was like the end of Con Air. You're mixing in every possible thing. I'm surprised at this point the Russians didn't attack and start shooting torpedoes into the submersibles. But that's only compounded by the fact that Cameron, he is inconsistent with the rules of survival. In the opening sequence, we're taught the dangers of going down to the depths. We see what happens to the submarine. We see these specialized equipment that the Navy can't even get their gear out there. But then immediately, 5 minutes later, they throw that out the window. They were afraid of the heaters going out and they're going to freeze to death. But then 5 minutes later, Virgil goes for a swim in a t-shirt and jeans. No problem. All of a sudden, Lindsay's trapped in a sub. No way out? Let's make her die first. She should just, I'm going to freeze to death. You tow my body over there, and then you're going to bring me back to life. It doesn't make sense. You've got right after, you remember when we have our demolition derby of these underwater submersibles. And then we see Coffey's, his falls off. I counted, Gene, 8.5 seconds. It goes down into the depth of the abyss. Then it implodes. Boom. 5 minutes ago, Virgil was swimming there. He was swimming right there. He didn't even get like his ears didn't pop. He didn't have to worry about freezing to death. Be consistent. And when you make these rules up and then you immediately break them, it makes me wonder if you thought the whole thing through.
Yeah, I was so confused when the divers first left the submersible to inspect the USS Montana. Like when they first get to the submarine, okay? Yes. That thing's at what, like 3,000 feet or some shit like that underwater? The deepest dive to date in the world, okay? Yeah. It's about 1,000 feet. The only explanation I can give is that the movie was made in the 80s and they were looking forward to 1994. Maybe they thought there were going to be some incredible advances in dive suit technology in the next, 5 years.
If this was the case, Gene, why did the guys in the sub panic? They could have all thrown on oxygen tanks and swam to freedom.
Swim up.
That's all it would have taken. And also, what do we know, Gene? We're not engineers. We are not the creators of OceanGate. We're not, what is the strongest shape known to man?
Triangle.
No, shut up. Stronger. It's a sphere. It's a ball.
Oh, really?
All the pressure comes from all sides evenly. If you think about the submersibles, if you look at their helmets, Gene, what are they? They're like right angled, square. Those things would shatter in a second.
Clearly designed by the Iranian Navy, who thought triangles were...
We just go with it.
But listen, guys, and it's not that we're complaining about science, okay? That's not it. We're complaining about the rules established by the filmmakers themselves. I don't expect a movie about underwater aliens to be scientifically sound, okay? But the cool thing about writing a film, a work of fiction, is you determine the sequence of events. You determine the rules. James Cameron could have established that there was a strange pocket under which pressure was different or there was oxygen in the water. Who fucking knows, all right?
Yes.
But maybe, so you've established the rules. So now your rules for survival, you need to abide by them, okay? So ways out of this situation with the leaking sub. Mainly, maybe they find a miraculous way to patch the mini sub, okay? Which, by the way, did not implode when it got a leak, which also probably should have happened. Maybe Deep Core finds a way to send them help at the last minute. I wouldn't be mad about that. Maybe Lindsay dies. That would be perfectly okay.
We don't even hear from the surface support.
Yeah.
Until the very end. I think we would have benefited from hearing them up there, trying to find out what's going on, trying to send them help, saying how dangerous the situation is. Instead, it's just it's science is out the window, Gene.
Yeah, what James Cameron decided to go with, as you mentioned, Big D, is we're going to drown Lindsay and then revive her 7 minutes later.
Yes.
By the way, she is now not getting oxygen, also not in a suit, in a high pressure environment under the water with freezing cold temperatures. Okay, and I admit, like you said, Big D, Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, they did a great job playing up the drama and the terror of accepting this fate, of knowing that I think this might work, but I still have to allow myself to drown, and then deciding at the last second, oh my God, I can't do this. That was great. I appreciated the surprise boobs. Lindsay, if she were ever revived, would have serious brain damage. She's never waking up.
Dude, we've seen that trope, where there's only one oxygen tank and you share the regulator and then you pass it back and forth. We've seen him swim this distance before. He could do that. But instead here, Lindsay is dead. She is stone cold, blue lips dead, Gene. They're trying CPR. Everybody's into it. And all of a sudden, they call it real quick. They call it after maybe like 2 minutes. If Emma or Vanessa were to drown, I'm going to go for at least 10, 15 minutes, then hand off to somebody else. I would not give up.
Hold on. If they drowned this way, 7 minutes at let's say 1,000 feet underwater.
What else do you have to do? You have nothing else compelling to get you. You have nothing else to do but try to bring them back. Try to revive them.
Personally, I like to cover up my wife's breasts and maybe
right.
Have a moment.
Thankfully, James Cameron, he cut it right above the chest, so you couldn't really see it. But they call it pretty quick. And Virgil's like, hell no, I'm going to go back to it. And I respect it. He goes back. He's desperate. He's exhausted. I completely love her. I can't live without it. He keeps going. It doesn't work. They're ready to call it again. He's finally going to stop. Then he says, no, the defibrillator, bring it back out. They get it out there and they try it again. That doesn't work, Gene. And then he goes to a technique I've never seen. The way you revive someone is to slap them really hard in the face several times. You slap them, and then you yell at them, wake up, Lindsay, wake up, don't quit on me, wake up. And then she'll come back to life, Gene. If you shake them, the Hollywood CPR, it works. It works every time.
Gotta call her a bitch, too.
Man, I felt that was a little bit personal.
With the warhead 2 miles below deep core, Bud uses an experimental diving suit equipped with a liquid breathing apparatus and keypad for communication. He reaches the warhead and disarms it. With little oxygen left in his system, Bud explains that he knew it was a one-way trip, and he tells Lindsay he loves her. As he waits for death, an NTI approaches Bud, takes his hand, and guides him to a massive alien city deep in the trench. Inside, the NTIs create an atmospheric pocket for Bud, allowing him to breathe normally. The NTIs then play back Bud's message to his wife and look at each other with understanding.
We can see where they spent the money in developing this underwater submersible. It's the communications.
Mm-hmm.
The communication's amazing. Miles of water underneath. You can communicate. You can communicate 2.5 miles down. You can text message. You have voice chat. You have video. The communication is on point for all of their technological failures. And Virgil here with the end, the nuke is down with the aliens. So Virgil finally accepts his fate. There's only one way forward. He has to use the Navy SEALs conveniently brought their experimental liquid breathing method that we've seen the poor rat terrorized in, and he's going to go into the abyss. And this sequence is the root of what works in these type of films. It's terror of the unknown. It's the dark water. It's the endless falling. It's not knowing what's down there. It's being in complete darkness. He's falling. He's hitting the ledge. You're seeing the other obstacles that had fallen earlier in the film. The crane, the parts of the sub. It's endless blackness, and he's falling and falling and keeps falling. You don't know what's going to be below. It's terrifying. And this proves our point early on. You don't need the ridiculous chases. You don't need the swimming to freedom and the subs that are like springing leaks and the sparks that are flying around and the fights between a Navy SEAL and a roughneck. It's ridiculous. You're avoiding what was there. It's that crushing void, the depth of the ocean. That's what keeps you on the edge. And when they were forced to do it here in the end, it works.
Yeah, I came away from the abyss with a whole new fear in life. Going to the deep, breathing oxygenated fluid, being all alone in the suit. And Ed Harris did such a great job of making this all so real. In an otherwise ridiculous film, He was taking things very seriously. I felt like what it would feel like to be in that suit, to have to trust in the technology. And no matter how much somebody tells you that the oxygenated fluid is safe to breathe, there is no way a person just voluntarily can breathe it, right? Everything in our DNA is wired against the things that he's doing. And he does a great job of showing that contrast between his bravery and every instinct and every system in his body fighting against it.
And Gene, I'm thinking here, we've gone past all the forced, unrealistic drama, the situations that they tried to create tension. Bud is sitting there on the edge, alone, dark. There's no way to get back up. Somehow Cameron comes up with another trope he's going to throw in there, something else to ramp it back up. And I know whoever engineered these nuclear warheads, they did not expect that you're going to be at the bottom of the ocean in pitch black dark, and a guy is using a green glow stick, which has bubbles in the, there's oxygen in these little plastic tubes. So those would have imploded, but whatever. It's the Hollywood trope of like the cutting the bomb. We got to cut the wire, Gene. And the setup is classic. One wrong move and it's over. The Abyss didn't fucking need this. He's at the bottom of like 2.5 miles. There's a nuclear warhead. There's aliens. Everything is going wrong. We don't need the, hey, which wire am I going to cut? I don't know which it's going to be. He's breathing liquid air. It's ridiculous. It's unnecessary. And it's going to be the, which wire do we cut? We don't get enough, Gene, of the guy making the wrong choice. I know they're going to pick the right choice. I don't, other than maybe did he pick the wrong one at some point when the house exploded or whatever it was? We need more. Choose the wrong wire to at least make this trope have us be afraid that somebody could die.
Big D, I know you went to sapper school. Do they teach like ordnance disposal there? Are wires really all color-coded and shit on warheads?
No, well, we don't do nuclear warheads, but no, not like this. You obviously make them clear colors. You have a white and a black normally for like a negative and a ground, or like a power and a ground. You don't make them colors that could be confused. But it's such a bad trope because do you think anyone ever thought, wow, I wonder if it's going to blow up? Nobody thought that. No. Well,
it could have been something like he's about to make the decision. He chooses the wrong one, or the alien's like, up. Hold on. We noticed that there's a nuclear warhead right next to our giant alien city. We should probably do something about it.
Why not instead make him like slowly blacking out? Make it something that is not just, he's struggling to complete the steps. He's running out of oxygen, but instead you're making it where he grabs and he gets the wire cutters on the wire and then he thinks again. It's so fucking stupid and played.
On Deep Core, the crew is waiting for rescue when they see a message from Bud that he met some friends and warns them to hold on. The base shakes and lights from the trench herald the arrival of the alien ship. It rises to the ocean surface with Deep Core and several of the surface ships run aground on its hull. The crew of Deep Core exits the platform, surprised they are not dead from the sudden decompression. They see Bud walking out from the alien ship, and Lindsay races to hug him.
So, Jane, Katja from Austria would be proud. This is another film that teaches you love is the most powerful intergalactic power there is, Gene. From the depths of the ocean, it can save you. And at this point, we get the messages back and forth about how I love you, I'm gone. I knew I couldn't come back, but I had to go. And I don't want to sound cynical. I know people love this film. I know Steve F. liked this film. But I started to laugh here because we've gone through this tense environment. We're now down at the bottom. We have Bud he's decided this is it. He's just going to sit back. He said, hey, I'm going to sit here for a while. I'm not going to panic. I can't come back up. And Virgil's barely hanging on. He's slumped on the rock. He's at the edge of death. And then all of a sudden, we see the little tiny glowing hand come out. And it's like a deep sea ET. And it's like Cameron's in his mind, he's thinking, this is going to be beautiful. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be E.T. climbing up the stairs into the ship and saying, I'll be back. But no, it looks fucking terrible, Gene.
He said, be good. It's the Terminator.
Oh, whatever. But he said, be good. Yeah, that's true. I'd been back. Okay, yes, he did say be good. That's true. That was an ominous threat to Elliot. But the execution, Gene, you've got the water tentacle. It looks good. But now we've got like CGI and green screen, and it turns into Disney's Soarin'. And the alien grabs Virgil's hand, and they spread their arms, and they start flying through the glowing city. Oh, look, it's so beautiful. And they're flying, and he lands, and the air comes out. It's like a 90s theme park ride. This movie was groundbreaking. Why do this? I was chuckling. I knew I was supposed to feel something, but I did not feel it at this point.
I was going to debate this with you at first because I was like, the reaching out, I don't know, the aliens are kind of cute. They look like little butterfly, jellyfish little guys with their cute little faces. All that was great. But man, I got to agree with you. I was a little thrown off when the NTI was like giving him a tour of the underwater city. Like the man is dying. The man is dying. He's freezing. He doesn't have oxygen. No. Just get him, fire in the sky, right? Get like 4 aliens to rush him through the fucking ship into the closest place. Call me old fashioned, but I imagine when an alien craft the size of Tulsa rises from the depths in the middle of a nuclear standoff and it's lifting American warships out of the water, there's likely to be some shots fired. People might be a little bit startled. The Navy might have a response for this. We know that these NTIs observe events on Earth. Okay, they can pick up the communications. They know what's going on in the ocean. They've seen submarines before. We know they aren't stupid. They probably understand that these are military ships. And we know that Americans in particular, and the Russians for that matter, pretty trigger happy. I was expecting something disastrous to happen, not having seen this movie before, Big D. Like I was worried that this was going to lead to a battle scene at the end.
It should have. It's Virgil's fault. These aliens, I wonder what they're there for. Because they can control the weather, Gene. They created the hurricane. They made the hurricane go away. So I don't know what they're doing down there. Maybe they were doing some final judgment on humans, but why do movies do this? We say it all the time. Say the important thing. Say the facts that matter. Say the important. Share the information with people who deserve to know it. The Abyss, perfect example. Virgil finally gets his comms back. Okay. Instead of saying, I'm alive. The aliens saved me. They're peaceful. Don't shoot. He types, I've made new friends. What? You made new friends? Who'd you make new friends? The Russians? You got the Navy. The Russians are topside. Everyone's on edge. You don't know what's going on. And you want to be cryptic? You want to be funny? You want to type about love and I made friends and you'll all see. Just wait. Everybody just wait. I would think he was hemorrhaging. I would think something had gone wrong. He should have pulled up to the top. The Russians see this, think it's some kind of new weapon system. They light it up. It goes World War III. You don't need this suspense. This is going to turn into Independence Day. Just give the information, Virgil. Don't shoot. Friendly aliens. I'm coming up.
Now, Big D, I think you and I both watched the theatrical version of the film, not the special edition. I think there is additional lore to this where and correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, you can write in host@chatpod.com or leave us a voicemail using the SpeakPipe feature at chatpod.com. But from what I understand in the special edition or in some extended lore, the aliens have been observing people. They were going to launch some like catastrophic tsunamis or whatever, but their mind was changed because they saw Bud's love. That's what changed. That's what made the difference. So it makes the ending sort of make more sense. That's the story.
Did they forget about coffee trying to kill them both 30 seconds before? And just one good text, Gene. One, I love you, wife text. That converted it. That changed their minds.
That's why they showed it to him on the screen.
Then also there was a nuke. There was a warhead left next to their mothership. They forgot about that.
Bud's bravery,
I made friends. He's flying through the fucking Soarin'. God,
this is gonna be one of those episodes where we really got to release the video because There's a lot going on Big D's side. All right, now's the time of the podcast. We give our Shat score for The Abyss. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when there are 2 candles in the dark. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster movie. It's a sphincter factor of 9.5. I'll go first, Big D. This movie is underwater Armageddon. And like Armageddon, I thought it was fun. I was entertained. But this movie is criminally dumb, especially with this ending trying to make a statement. I felt like I watched an hour of guys getting kicked in the nuts, and then they end the movie with a poem about world peace. Great visuals, great audio, great atmosphere, terrible storytelling. This is 3.5 wipes for me.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like Rocky IV. It's a big, dumb movie, and at the end you get Rocky saying, "Why can't we all get along?" Why? That's the message that comes at the end.
That's not what he said. He said, if I could change,
you could change.
Anyone could change.
But the basic, the subtext was we could find common ground. That's what he's trying to say. But
do you remember the end of A Christmas Carol? What did Tiny Tim say?
Didn't he say that Tiny Tim, like the son survived or whatever? Or
No, what did Tiny Tim say?
Oh, I don't remember what he fucking
God
said.
God bless us, everyone.
I don't remember. I don't remember what happened.
You're not going to be my trivia partner.
No, I don't. Please, especially I'm this far into my Tito's. I don't know what the hell's been going on. I have no idea. But rewatching The Abyss, interesting experiment. The watching the DVD was cool. The film itself started off slow. It's absurd. The intensity gradually builds, then falls, then builds again. But it kept me engaged. I love the sound design. It's claustrophobic. If anything Cameron does well, it is claustrophobic, industrial, utilitarian, like corridors, whether it's space or underwater, like blinking lights, that shit, it's good. He does it really, really well. But there's a lot of goofy elements in this. They don't age well. There's inconsistent science, the over-the-top action. The alien Soren scene is absolutely terrible. It's making me laugh as I think of it. But without this movie, we don't get the future like of CGI films and Cameron like masterpieces like Terminator 2, and whether or not you love Avatar 2 or Avatar 3 that's coming out, it all led to this. It all came from this. So I got to go 2 wipes.
All right, with 2 wipes from you, Big D, and 3.5 wipes from me, that gives us an average wipe score of 2.75 wipes for The Abyss.
Gene, with the score of 2.75 wipes, that now ties this in the 249 spot with Kingpin, Robot Jocks, Notting Hill, and Rad.
Oh.
Slightly better than Big, License to Drive, slightly worse than Cabin Boy, Short Circuit, and Near Dark.
Oh, man. Having this on the same level of Robot Jocks feels terrible. But, I mean, they're very different movies.
Robot Jocks was pretty fucking good, dude. Robot Jocks was surprising.
The stunt doubles were amazing.
I think, hold on, let me see. So who shit on that movie? I think Ash shit on it. Yeah, no, Ash gave it a 4.
What did I give it?
I give it 1.75. You give it 2.5.
Wow.
Ash gave it 4.
I have to go back and watch that again. I don't remember it being that good.
Overall, the action was enjoyable. It was for the budget. But here, I think this is one of those films where people's memories cloud the actual film it was. It made back the budget, but not much more. It ended up to litigation on the studios and Cameron. It led to Cameron's divorce from his wife, the producer. There was a lot of things beyond the scenes, but it led to, again, Terminator 2 in the future and the master James Cameron he became.
All right. Well, Steve, I hope you find that Shat score fair. And thank you so much for my first exposure to The Abyss. Before we close out, I've got some email. The first one comes from Wes. It's about Donnie Darko. He says, Donnie Darko, 2001. Would you ever consider doing this movie? I would love to hear your takes. Big D being a little older would give an interesting perspective on the time period it's set in. And Gene, this movie feels like it'd be a personal favorite of yours. It'd be irresponsible of me to spend the money to commission it, but I wonder if any other listeners would be willing to chip in. I'm a longtime weekly listener, huge fan of the pod. I sent in a fake email address that shout out back in the day with something to the extent of RIP Carrie Gross in it. If you recall, cracked you guys up. Thank you for all your years of entertainment. My favorite podcast ever of all time, Wes. Well, Wes, you are correct in your assumption that I am a big fan of Donnie Darko. It was probably during my college years my favorite movie to watch repeatedly. And there's so much to unpack in that film. I would love to watch it as a mature adult.
Man, I need to watch this. I've heard so much about it. I mean, look at the cast. You got Gyllenhaal, Barrymore. You have Rogen, Malone, Swayze, and a rabbit, Gene, a demonic rabbit. Yes, please.
Sparkle motion. All right, here's what we'll do, Wes. Big D and I will come up with a way to get this done, whether it be a fundraising live stream or just a call out through social media for some donations. But we'll set a price. We'll get that together, and we'll try to get Donnie Darko done for you. Or if anybody out there is interested in commissioning it themselves and dedicating it to Wes, we would accept that as well. Just write us, host@chatpod.com, or leave us a voicemail using the SpeakPipe feature. All right, next up we have an email from Jeremy F., who's also asking about a commission. He says, hello, Shat Crew. Just looking at what it would take to commission a couple of movies that are actually quite near and dear to me. Just curious about the process and the price. The movies are below thanks. And he is asking about the Pauly Shore trilogy of Encino Man, Son-in-Law, and In the Army Now.
Well, I think I emailed him. I said, luckily enough, In the Army Now we've done.
Mm-hmm. So that one's free. You can listen to it right now, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think Encino Man would be wonderful. Any of them.
Encino Man, you get the bonus of having Brendan Fraser as well. So that's a banger. And Son-in-Law, I relate to it deeply. So
agreed. Yeah, I'd be open to any of them.
Having hee-haw in-laws. No offense, Toby.
Okay.
Well, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week's film, I vividly remember this. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The rabbit scene is like permanently stuck in my head. Lots of rabbit references.
There's a line, an old woman says, "Why's my back all wet?" And when you see it, you'll remember it. Apathetic Jim. Oh, yeah, I believe that is the same one, right? That's the old woman sitting in the urinal.
No, you're thinking of Moving Violations.
Yes. God damn it. I think he's in it too. Yes. So, Gene, next week, apathetic gym teacher Freddie Shoop is ready to take the summer off in Hawaii, but he's forced to either teach summer school English or risk losing his tenure. Now he's stuck teaching a group of unmotivated students, as disappointed to be stuck in summer school as he is. But with the help of a friendly history teacher, Shoop is at least learning how to act the part of supportive mentor and perhaps even learning something about himself as well. This came out in 1987, directed by Carl Reiner, and music by Danny Elfman. So this should be a good one.
80s fans out there, I think you'll agree with me that Mark Harmon is a national treasure and did not get enough movies. Everything he's in, he's a fucking gem. I'm excited to do this one. Thank you so much.
Good looking man.
Looking forward to that one. Well, thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. You should follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. You can find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts we found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
You know what we need? I mean, besides bread, we need a woman who appreciates what we have to offer.
Freddie Shoop loves to cut class, hates to do homework, lives for summer vacation.
Look, Freddie, you're a semi-charming guy and a real snappy dresser. You're just not the kind of guy I date anymore.
Yeah? What kind of guy you dating now?
Oh, the kind who wears socks.
And the only reason he hasn't been expelled yet is because he's the gym teacher
Oh, Mr. Shoop,
at Oceanfront High.
congratulations. You've been chosen to teach summer school. No, I'm not a real teacher. That's all right. These aren't real students. They're unmotivated, irresponsible, not too bright. They'll relate to you.
You in this class too?
I'm teaching them.
No way!
Right off the bat, you show them who's in charge. Please take your seats.
Where should we take him?
Who is in charge?
I recommend this time I pass. You're gonna do well, Jerome. I can feel it.
I've seen some of your students. Very scary.
There's a very valid reason for summer vacation. The human brain needs rest.
I know you guys aren't exactly fired up about English. We're stuck here. We're trapped like rats.
Tension breaker had to be done.
Mark Harmon,
You need an intelligent, sensitive man who can skate.
Kirstie Alley,
Do you know such a guy?
Oh, they're hard to find.
and the Oceanfront High Summer School Class of 87.
They're as smart as you and me. You and I.
All of us.
Paramount Pictures presents a new film by Carl Reiner, Summer School.
I love this film. It had passion and a plucky spirit. Dave, I agree with you. Thumbs up from me. Same here. To sum it up, I'm Chainsaw. I'm Dave. We'll see you at the movies.
Hold on. Here she comes. Hold on. So Jean, she's worked like back to back, like 13-hour shifts.
Oh.
Here she is. Look at her. Look at the face. Look at the face. Hold on. Say hi to Jean.
Hello.
Your friend is making me work so much.
I know. He's just sitting here on his ass drinking Tito's.
He doesn't get it that he pays the bills and I'm here just for the flight benefits. I can have flight benefits with 24 hours a week, but he makes me work 40.
Well, I heard you get to go to Japan at least.
Please talk to your friend. I can go to Japan working 24 hours a week. I don't need to work 40 hours. I don't make money.
He needs to quit the podcast to get a real job.
His job pays the bills. He's just like, he likes to take advantage of me.
Oh my God.
He likes to send me to work so he can be home drinking Tito's talking to you. Growing a beer.
Yeah, so this is like the evil Big D.
Did you see that he's going to make me dye his beer?
No, I haven't discussed that yet. I have a lot of gray.
You got to embrace it.
Thank you. He bought a kit because he needs to get all pretty for this weekend.
I'm not going to do it for this weekend. I'll do it when I come back.
I'll leave you and your friends so I
Thank
can
you.
go take a shower.
We had 2 more minutes.
And bye.
Beijo.
Wow.